First things first, you need yarn and a hook. Which yarn and hook you use doesn't matter for this project because whatever you choose will only just decide its size, but it won't be significant enough to matter. In other patterns it does, but for this one it doesn't. For example, the difference between this H hook and this F hook, there's not a lot of difference. An H will be more comfortable with this particular yarn because this particular yarn tells you it will be the most comfortable with an I or a 9 or 5.5 millimeter. This is a size H, which means that it's an 8 or a 5 millimeter. This is just the one I had. But this yarn tells me an I would be more comfortable based on the size of the yarn. The difference between an H and an I is 0.5 millimeters, and I wouldn't even notice. Yarn, if I had a smaller or a larger yarn, I would probably be more likely to use a smaller or larger hook. First thing we're going to do is attach our yarn to our hook. We need to make a slip stitch. I wrap it around my finger and then use the loop to grab the yarn and pull it to make the slip stitch. So with the end of the yarn, I wrap it around my finger and then I use that loop back down onto the main yarn and pull the main yarn through it. And then you just put that on your hook and pull it and it's attached. You want a bit of a tail in order to sew it in afterwards. And then you pull the main cord, not the tail, to tighten it, and you pull the tail to loosen it. You don't want it to be too tight. We're going to chain 6 now that we've started it. A chain is just wrapping the yarn around your hook and pulling it through. That's 1. How you wrap around, some people go around this way and pull it through. Some people go around this way and pull it through. It doesn't alter anything. And this loop here, you can change how tight or loose it is. So if it's too tight and you can't get your loop through, just pull it out a bit, grab that yarn and pull it through. So the difference between this one and this one now is massively different because of that tension. I'm going to start over. So I'm grabbing my yarn under and twisting the hook, pulling it through the loop, pulling that a little bit so it's not too tight, doing it again, pulling it so it's not too tight, doing it again, pull that up, under, turn my hook. We've got these heart shapes starting, so that's 1 heart shape, 2 heart shapes, 3 heart shape, 4. So each chain, each time we do this loop, is creating this V shape. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 2 more. Under, pull it through, pull this out a little bit, under, pull it through. So that's 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're going to connect it. We're going to go into our first one and make a loop like this. So back into the first V. See if I can get this to focus. In this first V here, so if we back along our root, we've got the 6th one, the 5th one, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and our first 2 here, we're just gonna put our hook through the top. Just that top bit of the V. Now if I turn it to the side, okay, focus. There's a bump in the back. How can I get this to focus? There's a bump in the back and then 2 on the top. So see that one along the back? And then the 2 on the top. So we want to go in the V, and that one on the back is still under. And all we do is the same thing we have been doing, which is under and turn the hook so it grabs it and pull it through that, and then also pull it through the one on our hook. And that's connected our circle. Now we're going to work around and around this circle. We have our 6 in this ring. We want to increase it. We have 6, we want 12. Tail end, now that I've connected it, it's at the beginning here and it's getting in my way, so I'm just gonna flip it to the other side, and that's gonna hopefully move out of the way. So here's my ring. I want this to be 12 now. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Harder to see, but we're only going to be going into the top thread of each of those. So if you look at your piece where you've connected it, you've got the hole, and then it's still one piece behind red is kind of hard to see, but it's still the V shape, 2 pieces. So there's 2 and here's 2, and the one in the back, the bump in the back. So what we're going to do is now a single crochet. We're going to go under that top loop. We're going to grab the yarn, face our hook down, pull it through 1, and we have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to grab it again, face it down, pull it through both those. That's a single crochet, and this is the one that we went under. And we're going to do it in the same spot. So under that same top loop, I'm going to go in, grab it, pull it through. So I have 2 on my hook. And I'm going to grab it again, turn it down, and pull it through both. Now I have 2 that I've created here. And I recommend marking this in some way. If you have a safety pin or something like that, grabbing this one, because that's your first one. Because once we get around to this other side, they're going to all start looking the same. But we're going to do the same thing to that next one. We're just going to go into the outside, and we're going to do 2 in that one. So we go under, grab it, pull it through, grab it, pull it through. Now I'm going to talk about the tension when I do this. So I'm holding this pretty tight, but I want this hole to not be super tight because I, again, have to pull these things through here. If your hook comes out, you can pull your loop, put it back in, and then tighten it again on there. But I have one in here, so I'm gonna make sure my loop is a little bit loose. Put it in, grab it, pull it through, so I have two. So the tension on these two now is different. This one's loose, but this one's still tight, so I just kind of pull them until they're the same. You can't put tension on this one anymore. So any movement you have is only on that end one now, because this one has already been locked in. So I'll make sure they're both sort of loose, not much. Grab it, pull it through both. Now I have 4, and as you can see, this one has started to look like all of these. So I know I just did these 2 and 2 before that, but do you see how much this first one looks like the last one that we need to do? So that's why it's important to put some sort of marker on this one when you're working in the round. Because when we get around to there, we could just keep going and going and going and not realizing we completed everything. Or if you're really good at counting, done 4, I'm going to go in, do 5, 6, and I'm turning it because we started over here, and as I go around it, I turn it. So we're halfway there. With 6, this is 7, same one, 8, and then I turn it, and here's the V. I'm just doing the top one. 9, 10. Okay. If you're, so I did this first one a bit tight, so it's not easy to get my hook under like that. You can use the hook bit to get it in there. Kind of shimmy it a little, give yourself some space. 11 and 12. So if you suspect that you're done, this is how you check. So you look along the top here, you see your V's. You don't count the loop, but you do count this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have 12, I've doubled it. I don't want to double it again. Doubling it is about the extent of my counting abilities. So I've grabbed a marker here. I have these little tiny cheapy fake plastic safety pins that I use as markers. There's lots of different types. There's types that loop like this. You can also use a piece of string or a piece of different yarn. You don't want to use the same yarn because then it just looks like your piece. But I have a piece here to help myself because we had 6, now we have 12. We want to have 15. So I'm going to increase but not double it. I want to just add 3 extras as we go, and that's harder to count. So for our first one, I'm going to go into the top loop of that first one, do the same thing. I'm going to grab it, pull it through so I have 2 loops on my hook, kind of shimmy them, grab it, pull it through both. That's my first one, and this is where I'm going to mark it. So that's the V that I've made here. I'm going to mark that, make a second one, go in, pull it through, and shimmy, pull it through again. I've made 2. And now I want to do one more. I'm going to go in that top of my V, grab it, pull it through both. So I have 3, and now I'm going to increase. And all increasing is doing is what we were doing in the last one, which is doing 2 in one hole. So we've only been doing these 3 in singular. So in this one, I'm gonna go in, grab it, pull it through both, and then in that same hole, do another one, just like we were doing in the last one. So now I have 5. I did 1, because that's where my marker is, 2, 3, and then I did 1, 2 in this hole. So that's 5. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to increase again, 1, and then in that same hole, 2. So I have 10, and if I go in the same pattern, I'll do 1, 2, 3, and then 2 in that one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that would give me 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another one in that same hole, 5. And my marker is getting in the way. Let go. Okay, 5. You can count from where we began. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We want to increase again. We want to add 3. So we have 15. We want to add 3 and end up with 18. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to mark it again. So I'm going to go in my first one. You can see where I went in my last one. I'll go in my first one, make 1, whoops. So what happened there is the yarn split a little. So each one of these pieces of yarn is several strands together. Make sure I go under all that and not through it. So just face my hook down. Go in, pull up my loop, pull it through both, and then I'm going to mark it. And I mark it under both the V, but it doesn't really matter as long as you can tell when you get to here that you're not supposed to go into that one. I'm going to lock it this time because last time it got all flippity when I got to the end. Okay, so we went in 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to increase. So in this case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to do that 3 times. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 is what we want to end up with. So I've done 4. I'm going to do 5, and then the 6th one in that same hole as my increase. And then I do that 2 more times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my increase in 5, and then in the same hole 6. I'm going to do that one more time, and I should have 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then in the same hole 6. And now it started to curl. That's good because, and that's due to the increase of a rounded shape. Here's a good time up to talk about the right side of your work and the wrong side. There's no right side or wrong side technically. It's all based on what you like. But if a pattern refers to the right side and the wrong side, this is what they're talking about. So as we go around like this, our work has been facing this way. What's on the other side looks like this. It's all those back loops, those singular loops that were along the back. You can see they're circled. This is the side people don't like. They usually call it the wrong side. The side that we've been working on is creating these lines because we're only going into one of our V's. If we went under both V's, it wouldn't have this swirl. And this side or this side doesn't actually matter. When you're done, you get to decide what side you want to face out. In some patterns, though, they do specific things in specific areas, and they will specify that you want to do it on the right side or the wrong side. I've rattled on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 is the first one. 18. Now that we have 18, we don't want to increase anymore. This is as big as we want. So we want to create the body of it. So no more getting bigger. We want to stay the same for a bit and make a little body. So we have 18. So we want to continue to do 18. No increases, no decreasing. And we're going to do that 4 times. This is how I follow that. This is my 5th row, my 6th row, my 7th row, and my 8th row. I want 18 on each of those. And it's the same all the way around. So I'll do 18, mark that one off, do 18, mark that one off, do 18, mark that one off, do 18 and mark that one off, and then I can move on. This is how I track it. You can do things like put some markers out, and each time you finish one of those, like your 18, 18, 18, and 18, you can mark it however works for you, as long as you know you're only doing this 4 times all the way around. And the same thing we've been doing. Oh, I should say, when you put your hook in the loop, it does not matter if you come in the back or come in the front. It doesn't matter. The loop is closing on it and you're using it. That won't affect anything. I want to lose track, especially since I'm not doing any increasing at all. So I'm going to go in and make my first one and then mark it. And then I'm going to do 18 around. That's 1, 2, 3. Oops, I split the yarn again. See that? Put my hook facing down so there's no split. 4-ply yarn has 4 pieces. There's 4 little threads that make up a 4-ply yarn. So I go in. I lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've done 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, I could just go until the end here. Maybe I'll do that. Did I split it? No. Okay. In. Okay. To the last one here. Let's see if I still have 18. And you see it's created a little dome now. We had it small and we made it bigger and bigger and bigger. And now this row is exactly the same size as the last one. So it's created a sort of tube. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So what I do is I mark off, I did that one. Okay, I'm going to do it 3 more times. Now that you've done 18 around 4 times, we've got our fish shape kind of forming. So originally we started small and then we increased it and increased it and increased it and increased it until it was this shape, and then we just did the same thing over and over. So it's making this tube shape. We're over halfway done. Now we want to make it smaller. We want to go back down to make the other end. So we're going to decrease. We have 18 and we want to have 9. So we're going to crochet 2 together in every single spot. So in these 2, we want to decrease, and then I'll mark it so I have 9 at the end. So the way you do that is you go through like you're going to make your normal single crochet, pull through the loop, but now you don't grab it. You go through another one. You go through the very next one, go through and pull the loop. Now you have 3. Now you make sure that they're all the same, grab it and pull it through all 3. So that's pulling those 2 together and only making 1 V on the top of those 2, which decreases that space, and it'll start to pull, and that's what you want because that'll make it smaller. So that's my first one. There's a V on the top. Okay, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go in, grab my yarn, and then go into the next one, grab the yarn, and then pull it through all 3. And see, that's pulling because I've made this 1 V on top of 2. So far I've gone through 4, but I only have my beginning V and this next one. So go in, pull it up, go in the next one, pull it up, pull it through all 3. Go in the next one, pull it up, go in the next one, pull it up, grab it, pull it through all 3. And we go around until we get to our marker. Pull it through, go in, pull it through. You can, this old tail is still there. You can just stuff that down inside now. Go in, go in, pull it through, and go in, pull through, go in, go in, pull it through. Now I'm to my marker and my hole is much smaller. So I'm gonna loosen this and count. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9. And so now it's getting real small, so I want to put my catnip and my polyfill in now before it gets any smaller and I won't be able to stuff it. So let's get that. First things first, you make sure that this loop is nice and long because it's going to get manhandled during the stuffing process and you don't want it to pull out and start pulling out your work. So I have a lot of polyfill here. I just break it up as I go and stuff it in. And I'll show you what it looks like when things are overstuffed as well. So you want it to be a nice firm shape. I would stuff it, if you're adding catnip, I would stuff it first to see how much you need. So in this case, it's squishy, it's not hard, but also not overstuffed. So then I would pull this out, lay it all out, and put the catnip in here and mix that all up so it's nice and incorporated, and then stuff that back in, that same amount that you've done. And then we'll continue on. This is what it looks like when you overstuff. Stuff it full to the rafters. See that? It's starting to pull your work apart. It's very stiff, but you don't want to see the polyfill coming out. And if you overstuff, you can pull it out and kind of push your work back together to maintain its shape. We're going to decrease again. We've got that big long loop because we were being careful, so I'm going to make it smaller. Put my hook in there. We're going to decrease again. We have 9 and we want to decrease again, but now we're at a weird number. So I want to get to 5. So I'm going to do the first row through my top loop there. I'm going to do the first one, just a normal singular one, and I'm going to mark that. And then I'm going to decrease the rest of them. So that's 1, and I'm going to decrease, grab through, decrease 1, and this is harder now that I'm folding in on myself here. So we decreased that one, so now it's going inwards. It's going to point it towards myself, and my V's are pointing inwards. So I'm going to go in and go in and pull up through the 3, just closing this up. Okay, here's my beginning one. I've got 2 more, So I'm going to decrease those together. And I should have 5. It's going to be more difficult to see, kind of push it in. But that's my starting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to make a little fishy tail. We're going to go back out and make a tail. We're forming the tail now on the end of our fish, so we need it to get bigger. So what we're going to do is just start increasing again. So we have 5, and it might be hard to see your first one. You can see your last one is pulling up on here, so this one is your first one, and I'm going to do 2 into that one. 1, 2, and I'm going to mark the first of those 2. So we did 2 here and here. I'm going to mark that first one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 9, 10. This is what we wanted. So we've got 10, and we're going to increase again to 20. So same exact thing, 2 in each, and then we'll be almost done. So my first one, I want to count now, I'm paranoid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. See, my end one there's a bit loose. I want to make 20, so I'm going in 1, 2, and I'm going to mark that first one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We've got this kind of flat plateau thing happening here. And for our last round, we're just going to go all the way around in each one of those spaces. So I've made a sort of little missile shape with a flat end on the end. I'm going to finish it, and then I'm going to fold this over and sew it so it creates the tail. So the way we end these is you want to do a slip stitch. So I'm going to go through both loops of the V just for stability. Grab it, pull it through. Now instead of grabbing it again, I'm going to just keep pulling that through. So I just have one. That's a slip stitch, and you can pull it super tight. I'm going to do a few of those. So into the next one, grab it, pull it straight through, keep pulling it through, pull it tight. I can cut my yarn here. I'm going to leave a tail in order to sew up the fish with. So I'm going to leave a fairly long piece here. And now I just pull and pull and pull until it comes all the way through. Now that's secured. I have a long tail, and it doesn't matter which way you fold this. We're going to end in kind of the middle, so if you want to turn it and fold it this way so that your beginning is at one of the points of the tail. I've got a tapestry needle. It's not sharp. You do not want something sharp because it will pierce your yarn and pull the threads apart, and you don't want that. You want something not sharp and something that has a larger eye so your yarn can fit into it without too much trouble. So I'm going to thread and make sure that didn't pull apart those 4 there. And I'm just going to sew through my V's. So you have the same number all the way down. I'm going to go through the top V just under the both. So on this side there's this V, and on this side there's this V, and I'm just going under both those and then under both those. And I'm just going to go back and forth, back and forth. And the reason I'm doing it that way instead of going around the outside is because if a cat is playing with it, this is now a vulnerable spot to break. If I'm going under them like this, he could pull these out as much as he wants, and it's not going to under. And in through my last 2. And now you have your fish. I want to sew this tail in and usually go straight towards the body, keeping it loose so that if the cat pulls it out, we've got, and I'm going to push it straight through, but I'm keeping it super loose. I'm not trying to deform and also I wouldn't go like from here around and go in down here, because if I go in here, this part will be on the outside. I want as little of this tail being pulled from the outside as possible, so I'm going to go back in extremely close to where I came out. I'm just going to go over this one loop here. I'm going to go back down through the whole thing. Again, not pulling super tight so I don't deform the fish shape. And then I'm going to cut it. And you can use the end of your needle to push it through. This is our little crochet fish.